Hello, and welcome back to Wishing You Well, the podcast that digs into everyday choices, the simple choices that we make every day, and how they affect our long term health. I'm your host, Maria Patrick, and today we're diving into a subject that is near and dear to my heart, something that's hiding in plain sight in millions of homes, and that's the gas stovetop. In other words, say it isn't so, my gas stovetop may have to go. Now, if you're thinking, really, the stove? I use it every day. You're not alone. Most people don't realize that cooking with gas, while it may be easier and faster and feel more professional, it may be harming your health, even if you're cooking healthy food. In today's episode, we're going to unpack the science. We're going to explore who's most at risk. And I'm going to offer you some practical steps that you can take today, whether you're ready to switch your appliances or you just want to breathe a little easier while you're cooking dinner. Gas stoves are certainly a modern convenience, although they've been around for decades, but they come with a hidden cost. So let's start with the basics. They're often considered the chef's choice. That's exactly what I was told decades ago when I was at the appliance store choosing my stovetop. They said, "Are you a real cook? Because if you are, you're going to want the gas stovetop." They're considered better because they have responsive heat. The flames are obviously instant, and you've got that satisfying click as the burner ignites. But behind that warm blue glow is a cocktail of airborne pollutants that are released right into your kitchen each and every time you cook on your gas stove. First of all, you're burning methane, which is a fossil fuel, and you're releasing, this is a huge problem, combustion byproducts into your home's air. Among the ones that are most concerning are nitrogen dioxide, carbon monoxide, fine particulate matter, formaldehyde, and what is commonly known now as VOCs, the volatile organic compounds. Nitrogen dioxide is an irritant, and it can inflame the lining of your lungs. Carbon monoxide, most people are very familiar with CO, odorless, colorless, and dangerous even at low levels. The fine particulate matters, they're known as PM 2.5s. Those are the tiny particles that can penetrate deep into your lungs, and they can even reach into your bloodstream. The VOCs that I mentioned and formaldehyde are especially problematic when you're cooking with oils or you're cooking over high heat. One of the reasons that people like gas stovetops is because you could so quickly and easily get to a high heat. What makes all of this worse is that unlike our cars and our fireplaces, which emit pollutants, there's no built-in filtration system or chimney into your gas stovetop unless you have a very powerful externally vented range hood and you use it consistently. You're essentially trapping the pollution in your kitchen, where most of us spend most of our time, especially if you're like me and you're the one doing all the cooking. The science is clear, and it's been building for years. So let's take a look at what the research says. In 2022, there was a study that was published in the International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health. It found that gas stoves are responsible for roughly 12.7% of the childhood asthma cases in the United States. That's about the same risk as secondhand smoke in the home. So let that sink in. Children living in homes with gas stoves are significantly more likely to develop or worsen asthma. They say it's as high as a 42% increase. Why is that? Because their little lungs are still growing. They have higher breathing rates. They breathe faster. They spend, especially lately, this has become more problematic. They're spending more time indoors. And their developing immune systems can't handle the same toxic load as an adult's. And it's not just kids. If you have asthma or COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, allergies, or even heart conditions, you're more vulnerable to indoor pollutants. The short-term effects can be things that you may have been experiencing, you didn't have a causation connected to it. Increased coughing, wheezing, shortness of breath, maybe some tightness in your chest, eye, nose, and throat irritation, headaches, fatigue, even confusion. They're often mistaken for stress or dehydration. There's long-term effects too. Chronic exposure to indoor air pollution has been linked to reduced lung function, as well as cardiovascular disease, and even an increased risk of premature death. Here's the kicker. These pollutants don't just appear when you're cooking. This actually stopped me in my tracks when I read this. There's research from Stanford that shows that gas stoves can leak methane and the other harmful gases even when they're turned off. So there's a climate connection too, which is why it makes this issue bigger than our own personal kitchens. We always talk about health in my podcast, but there's an environmental angle here too. Methane, which is the main component of natural gas, is a potent greenhouse gas. It's over 80 times more effective than carbon dioxide at trapping heat in the atmosphere over a 20-year period. The Stanford study that I just mentioned, that was from 2022, it estimated that methane emissions from gas stoves in U.S. homes alone are equivalent to the emissions from 500,000 cars driving for a year. So whether you're lighting the burner or not, your stove is contributing to climate change quietly and continuously. The question that I asked myself when I came across this research is why people don't know more about this. Why are there so many myths and misconceptions and even dubious marketing? Part of the answer lies in the fact that the fossil fuel industry promoted gas as clean and efficient and better for cooking. I bought into it for all of those reasons. You've heard the phrase, like I have for years, you're cooking with gas. Meaning, if you're cooking with gas, oh, you're efficient, you're getting it done quickly. Well, that is quite literally a slogan that was created by the gas industry in the 1930s. To be fair, gas is efficient in some ways, but clean? No, unfortunately, by modern health or climate standards, it is not clean. It's also worth noting something that I haven't considered, and that is the fact that electric stoves and those with induction cooktops have come a long way, particularly if you're like me and you've had your appliances for decades. I'm grateful that I haven't had to replace them heretofore. I've certainly got my money's worth out of them. But when I made the decision to go with gas cooktop, I didn't consider anything else because I didn't think it was going to be a precise or fast or even energy efficient way of cooking. And it's all of those things now. It's come such a long way, particularly the induction cooktops, but you're not getting the emissions. That's the key. So that leads us to say, what now? Maybe you're renting. Maybe a full kitchen remodel isn't in your budget. Maybe you are going to have a hard time breaking up with your gas stovetop. That's okay. There are still meaningful steps you can take to protect the health of you and your loved ones. Here's the quick list. First of all, start with ventilation. Use your range hood every time you cook, not just when it's starting to smoke. Use it every time, especially when you're cooking with gas. Make sure it vents outside, not just back into the room. And if you don't have a vent, cook with the windows open. You can add an air purifier into your kitchen. This is what I've done. I use an air purifier with a HEPA filter and activated carbon. It's right there near my kitchen, and that can help reduce both the particles and the gases. You can cook on the back burners. They're closer to the vent hood, and they're more likely to be effectively vented. You're going to want to avoid cooking at very high heat with oils. That combination is going to release more pollutants. You might consider, and this is one of the things that I did, I purchased a portable induction burner. They're affordable, they're safe, and they can plug into a regular outlet. This is a great first step if you're like me and you're not ready to replace your entire stove. You can plan for the future. If you have a renovation or remodel or replacement of your appliances plan in your future, consider electric or induction ranges. You're going to reduce that indoor air pollution. You're going to lower your home's climate impact. So is it time to rethink the flame? I started off this podcast by thinking, say it isn't so. I can't believe my gas stovetop has got to go. Gas stoves may be part of the way we grew up, but we now know too much to ignore the risks. My podcast is not here to shame anyone. I'm here to inform and empower. When we know better, we can do better. So the real question isn't the topic that I've been covering for many podcasts heretofore, which is what's cooking on the stovetop. It's now about how we're cooking and how we can protect our homes and our families and ourselves and the planet. And it starts right in the heart of the home, the kitchen. I want to thank you so much for joining me today on the Wishing You Well podcast. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with someone you care about. Leave me a review or send me a message with your questions or your comments. I'd love to hear what's on your mind. Until next time, I hope you breathe easy, stay informed about your health, and keep making healthy choices one step at a time. Until next time, I am wishing you well.